Welcome to LSDM and to this masterclass. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Ana, for accepting our invitation. For the ones who didn't join us in our previous masterclass, we'll be holding these sessions every Wednesdays for the next 6 weeks now. So for updates, just follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn pages and feel free to attend. For today's masterclass, we invited Ana Rita Gama, which is our alumna, and she's also creative director at Aon. Please correct me if I'm saying this wrongly. So Ana has been working in the creative area since 2013, and she started her journey with Aon in 2017. There, she had the opportunity to work in several projects with the commercial, but also with the product development team. And she most recently has taken upon a new challenge as a creative director within the commercial team, right, Ana?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we invited Ana to share her experience and the output of her final project in the Mastering Design, as well as explain us how this has impacted her daily work as a creative director as well. As usual in these sessions, we will save some time by the end of the presentation for Q&A. So please feel free to write your questions in the chat in advance or anytime, or just use the raise hand tool by the end of the presentation to ask your questions. So, Ana, once again, thank you for accepting our invitation. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I will start my presentation. I'll make this short and sweet, I promise. Let me just share the screen. Give me a second.
While you do this, so you completed the master in the beginning of this year, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I finished my master at the beginning of this year. I was actually pregnant when I was doing my master, so it was a very, interesting,
challenging,
journey as well. And yeah, so it was very recent, and literally it's gonna do a year next year, and it was great. I had Adriana as my tutor at the time, and she's great, and she's, you know, she would always be there. I don't know if she's still with the school.
She is.
Oh, that's great. She was a great asset for me during my journey. So most of you probably know her if you're in design, at least. Okay, so I'll just jump into the presentation because I don't want to go over the time. So is everyone able to see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So just to talk a little bit more about my project, the project is focused on the spectrum of creativity and tries to understand, and by simplifying it using methods such as, you know, divergent and convergent thinking. We can say it's a field of doubt, of possibilities and mysteries, and yet there's a lot of doors yet to discover in the creative field. It's good to say that some believe it's a skill that can be measured. Others firmly say that it's not due to its unpredictability and individuality. What we can say for certain is that creativity is a cognitive ability, a process to which ideas meet in its purest form. That being a collective of strings of thoughts that clash, transform, merge, and redirect our sense of perception and understanding. So that is a bit of the project just in general. Let me just move. Yeah. And as you can see, this isn't a project to which there is a problem that directly impacts our physical environment. It is, however, a mindset problem that builds over time, and it's underlying in our way of thinking and concepts of what's right and what's wrong, and lives under this roof of unconscious bias. And that's because of the lack of creative confidence, and it's deemed based on the creative output instead. And so there's a few questions that followed me throughout my project, and the idea is, can we break the cycle, the way that we think and act, in order to fully embrace an unbiased creative process? Can we undress ourselves from predetermined concepts, stigmas, values, preferences, and see the world with naked eyes? And these were very important questions, and somewhat it very much compares on how children see the world. So children was a very important, it's not much, it's the age and the way that we perceive the world. So yes, children were very much important to my study and to this project.
Because of the beginner's eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like there's a really good book called The Innocent Eyes, and it talks a bit about, well, I didn't want to go there, but it talks a lot about it. And for instance, Kandinsky was a great claimer about the innocence of children's eyes and the way that they perceive the world and the way that they describe the world, because they have no they have no values yet. They have no preconception of what it should be.
No bias.
Yeah, exactly. So for any design-led project, it's important to have an anchor. In my case, because of the nature of the project, the linear approach of the double diamond, you'll see similarities, but the linear way that the diamond was built wasn't the right fit. Seeing that the creative process is not something which follows only one path. And because ideas overflow the train of thought and should be considered at all times. Due to its unpredictability, it was essential to connect and coexist in different spaces of the process, and being able to travel between and within the model, without necessarily starting a new project every time, or a new problem, you know, every time.
So you were just adapting.
Yeah, it needed to be flexible, and it needed to accept every possible scenario and concept and idea. And to explain further a little bit about the model, there's 4 spaces, them being the perceptive space. This is dedicated to recognize the problem, the situation, and therefore establish the first point of contact through identification. And then you have the inquisitive space, which is the part where you contextualize and deconstruct the information from the receiver, triggering then the first steps for the solution. Then you have the representative space, which is the 3rd one, the process of transformation that forms somewhat an attempt of visual coherence. This is a repetitive cycle, which leads to ideas and concepts. And then you have the shared space where you externalize, and then what we call the validation of an idea. Within and between the main spaces, which is the first, the second, the third, and the fourth, you have these gray areas. These gray areas are what is called creative intersection, where abstract...
So sorry to interrupt, but I think that you are not changing the slides, so we are still stuck in the first one.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, wait, let me stop.
That's fine.
Let me stop.
If you prefer, I can share my screen because I have your presentation in PDF.
Let me just try again, and you can see, you can let me know.
Now I can see
Okay, can
the
you?
ball of wool.
Yeah, let me see. Let me go back. Can you see?
No, it gets stuck there.
Okay. Let me see if I can. Okay.
Technicalities of the virtual world.
Okay, let me try again. Play from current slides. Now you can see?
Yes, I'm seeing the system.
Okay. Can you see, if I change it, can you see?
No.
Well, you get stuck in one slide. Okay.
Yes.
Say, if you can, Mafalda, can you please share?
Yes, I will try. I'll try. Just go ahead, continue. I will, while I'll share my screen and find your slide.
Well, thank God I sent you the PowerPoint in advance. Meanwhile, I think what I'm going to do is share the links of the output while, let's see if I can put them. So I'll share the links of the output of the project in the chat. One of them is available in English. The other, which is the brand website, it's only in Portuguese, unfortunately. But yeah, feel free to have a look afterwards. Okay. Okay. Okay, can I go back to I think we were in the ball of wool, which is the model that yeah, right there. So just to go back of what I was saying in relation to the gray areas, the gray areas, which you can see in the ball of wool, are the intersection where abstract thinking takes place, allowing you to reflect over time of your alongside of you whenever you're building your project. And then you have two types of lines. You have a dotted line, which indicates the creative process that entangles itself within the wool. We call this like being spontaneous. And the one line which indicates the convergent thinking and divergent thinking, weaving a new thread of yarn. So there is always an input and an output. And at last, you have ideas generator through, which are the dots, through design mechanisms, resources, creative material. And this being, you know, most of you know this, will be the personas, will be all the resources in the material that leads the next stage of your concepts and ideas and solutions. You can go to the next one, Mafalda, thank you. I think it's the system, yeah, perfect. So the way I went about it was making sure it was fully functioning. There was a fully functioning system that could sustain and share information within itself and other elements of the project. So there was no, I finished this now, I'll go to the next part, because every element was communicating with each other. So all identifiable design resources were absolutely imperative to the construction of the project. See them as an assemble of musical instruments, and the ball of wool, which was the model that I showed you earlier, was sort of the maestro that was conducting and leading the entire, we can say,
different sets of instruments. So
yeah,
you, in an orchestra, you have the percussion, the strings, and so your ball of wool is your maestro.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put it that way. Yeah, exactly. So it was fundamental to have that anchor from the very start till the very end of the project. And the ball of wool was that. So it was important, besides obviously from the ball of wool, it was important for the output to have a brand. So there was an association and, you know, identification of who we are, what we represent, and what we want to be. So this would allow for the output to have its own print. The brand is called A Parte, which is in Portuguese, which intentionally makes an interjection, seeing that it means there's something else or more to add in a conversation. It could mean more things, but this was the direction that it was going. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Sorry.
That's fine. I just need your guidance. Yeah. I will be your assistant.
Well, thank you so much. Then we have the output. Since I've mentioned, I took this on in a chat. Again, you'll find a link to the final product. Well, some of it, the digital narrative was, the aim of the digital narrative was to be a series of visual stories that simplify topics that are hard to explain. And the first being ideas, what are they? And like, if you do, I did a program of like what would have been the next series, but the idea was to explain, and the team was based on a sample of collection from, again, the persona creation, which was really important, that was interviewed based. And these were people that were coming from different backgrounds, different age group, and different locations, so I could get a wider perspective on what they felt like, what they feel ideas represent for them. And
so you needed to create several personas, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think my youngest was, I don't want to lie, I think my youngest was the 11 or 12, if I'm not mistaken. I wish I had a younger,
less biased.
Yeah, but it went from, I think, 12 to up to, or 11 up to 60. So it was, I did get a good range of people that were coming from different sets of life and different ages. And it was great. They all had completely different view on some bits, and then another bits. I think it came from life experience. Again, it's biased based on experience and other things that, you know, make who you are along the line. So the concept was that the digital narratives would be something that would be modular. It would be a flexible output. The idea was to invite other individuals to participate at a later or different series, either being in the script, in the visuals, in the sound effects, whatever. It made the composition of the visual story. If then we had, the idea was to be open to everyone, showing a wider, diverse and inclusive point of view about the topics, and invite people from small children to seniors, as they were all welcome there was no barriers. I've never put any age barriers or try to. It became, the idea was also to become a resource of creative material that, you know, could potentially be a mechanism to explore the creative process. So to bring it all into a cycle and bring the digital narratives as becoming the digital narratives becoming something that could be used in the future as an exercise even. But yeah, so then you have as well the mystery box. The mystery box was containing resources that would allow you to work with your creative self and confidence, with your thinking process. The box was an interesting one because the box adds an extra layer of mystery with every subscription. This is where it becomes the marketing strategies that are very important when creating a brand. Because you'll need your audience, you need something to captivate them. So the mystery with every subscription, through the combination of clues and puzzles that led to uncovering the known artist, I'll show you in a bit. You could then share your version at the end of the cycle of the subscription with the community and gain prizes from, you know, and opportunities from sharing your results and your masterpiece, if you may say. And it could have been even invited to actually participate in creating a story.
Really
you also,
cool.
Yeah. And then you have also the Creative Corner, which was a space dedicated especially for the users to download material with creative challenges that could help them then exercise their creative process. And these were the three main outputs of the brand, created for a wider audience. The rest of the presentation, I can go through the rest of the presentation. They're more focused on the digital narrative itself and how did I got to that point, or the output itself. But I was thinking I could go through maybe the digital narrative instead of maybe I can do a quick.
Let me just give a step back.
Yeah.
So please correct me if I'm mistaken. So you, for your final project, you developed this model that you branded as Apart, which is, by the way, a very interesting name because of the catch. Because for Portuguese, this has a meaning. I don't know if we can you please explain it also in English, because it's interesting. Because Ana Rita Gama did the master in Portuguese, but she's now presenting the project in English. So she developed this model thinking in Portuguese, not in English.
Yeah.
So, from what I understood, and so you developed based on the assumption and based in Piaget development stages.
Yeah.
So you developed this model to work creativity, or to to promote creativity between teams or within a creative process.
Yeah.
Making sure that we get as less bias as possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Piaget was by like many of in my literature review, I have many influencers for this project. Piaget was a good one. He's a great thinker. And definitely, I think the idea at the end of it, in coexisting with the output, the main reason was everything was surrounding the ball of wool. and how the process goes. And I apply this currently in my job with my team. We do have sessions of creative process, and you start the session without, we can't do this because we don't have the capabilities. No, you open up the session, everything is possible.
Yes, you start, why don't we?
Yeah.
How might we?
Yeah, exactly. But the idea is that, you're not restricted to or single-minded because we can't do something because we couldn't in the past or because it doesn't exist yet. Because once you start a conversation like that, you're immediately putting barriers and you're putting blocks within your thinking, and you should open up your mind and think inside and outside the box. All of that is quite important for any process, but especially if you want to unleash your creative self. And to do so, you need to be free of any predetermined concept. And so, yeah, that's how we actually do this quite often. We try to do it every single Friday before we go to our weekends. Just a way not only to decompress, but also, this is a good, it's kind of like, I call it like an incubator corner, because it's where we go back and forward with ideas, and we sometimes use them, we sometimes don't, but it doesn't really matter. It's just we make it happen. We exercise our creativity.
So you have this ritual of training your mind to be more creative every Friday afternoon to decompress.
Yeah. No, it's important. It's important for ourselves, because creativity is a lot of people associate it to like you need to be an artist, or you need to only children are creative, and it's so wrong. Because we all have creativity. We use creativity every single day to solve the mind. Like, it could be a really minor problem, but you're using creativity every day and you don't even notice. So everything is surrounded. That's why creativity is so interesting, because it's so unlimited. The world of creativity, it's so vast. And yeah, so it was it was a great project. It was a very exciting project. And to this day, I still, preach what I learned from it, if you may say. And yeah, that's it, guys. The rest of it was just a focus on a single output, which doesn't, it's okay. I could share this presentation as well, if I don't mind, if anyone is interested in having it. And we can perhaps maybe jump into the questions if you want.
Yes, I would just like to ask you, you were saying that you could also share something regarding the digital narratives.
Oh, yeah, I can share
the
screen.
Yes.
Share the screen. Wait, let me just...
Should I stop my sharing?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Thank you. Let me share.
Because this way we will understand better the digital narratives, at least.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I will.
Of course. So the digital narrative, can you see? I hope it doesn't.
Yes.
Okay.
We are seeing an animation.
Yeah.
Ideas.
So
what are they?
Yeah. So the digital narrative. Just a quick introduction. I made a script. It also had. For every script, you need to have a structure. So if we share the presentation, you'll see the structure, how I conducted the structure of the script itself. And then it has animation. The animation is a sequential animation. Everything was hand drawn by frame. It also mentions, like how, like the out, like how many frames I used. And it also has sound effect. I won't go through the sound effect because otherwise it will be echoing everywhere. But you have the link. Feel free to go and just explore. There's an English version, a Portuguese version. I think everyone on this call speaks English, so feel free to have a look. So the digital narrative, the ideas, what are they? Again, it's simplifying a really hard thing to explain, and in a more visual and more direct way. And it's really, you have, for every script, you start with a problem, you're facing a problem, and
So you start by decomposing the problem to simplify
exactly
the questions.
Exactly. So in order, you can see here, in order to understand it better, I need to see in a different perspective. And then it goes on, and initially the problem is such a big thing, it's a monster even. And as you go through, you start to see with different eyes. Oh, it's not that bad. It's not a monster at all. And then you start to give it a name. And then you start to be, you start to develop a sense of a feeling. You start to develop emotions towards the used to be monster, and you start to name it. You get attached to it. At the beginning it was massive. I don't know if you remember the globe and the difference. So it was, the visuals are very dramatic, and they were very, and I wanted them to be dramatic. Again, for all the visual series, the idea was not to go within one style, because the point was to invite other people to actually do this together and to collaborate. Was a very much a artistic and cultural initiative. So then the monster becomes an idea, but it's a good idea for him, for the person that met the monster and transformed it into an idea. But is it really a good idea for other people? Is it good? Is it, will it make sense for other people? Is it meaningful for other people? And then you go through this chaos of, it doesn't serve any purpose, your idea, and you need to go through this feeling of frustration and sadness. And we all go through it, when you create something and you like it so much, but it's hard when we are then criticized because it just doesn't fit the purpose, for instance.
Yes. Or people are not understanding our idea.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then there's like, you get to a point, okay, so I need to go over this. And after you go from like the fall act and the climax, you then start to realize another layer of what the idea is and what the idea can become. And by sharing information, by sharing with others, your idea can become so much more than what it is now. So that's why it's important to collaborate, to communicate, to share, especially within design. And so that's pretty much it. Then he sees another version, another point of view. He's able to connect to other people and is able to release an actual final idea or a final. He can literally make the idea live for everyone. instead of just keeping it for himself. So that is kind of the story, this very in general. But yeah, then the end, it kind of reflects on what is actually, what are the ideas, you know. And that's it. That's the visual. That's the visual story. And
first of all, congratulations, because I'm not a designer, and I think it's beautiful.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
And congratulations also on the idea, because it's not easy to put an idea like this one into practice. You were saying that when you started the final project in your master, you started with 2 or 3 assumptions, and then you needed to change, and
oh yeah,
yourself going through the creative process.
yeah. And even when I was doing, and this is an advice for everyone, is that when I was doing the project, the final project, you know, it changed course in the middle, because my idea, the initial intent was that I would collaborate with the kids as well, with the young children, and we would actually make a picture book together. So that is why children were massively important for this project, because it allowed me, because I was able to observe in the field how it was the creative process. But due to, you know, unpredictability of the project,
yes,
and other things, I had to change course, but I was able to gather all of that information and make it work into something that was meaningful. And that's what I wanted you guys to understand, is that there's no right way to do things. And it can change, you know, in the middle, like, and it's fine, it's okay. Just accept and embrace it, and use that for, you know, to continue with your project, or with whatever you're doing.
always focus on the solution, not in the problem. We will tackle the problem.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Okay, thank you, Ana. I don't know if someone has some question to ask Ana. Feel free to share, or in the chat, or join the conversation.
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Just open your mic. No, I think not. Not so many questions. But feel. Oh, Abhishek, I didn't realize that you were here.
Yes, I was silently listening. No, actually, I came a little late. I'm sorry. I had another meeting. But one thing which I would like to, one thing which I really remember from Anna's project, and it was one of the first presentations that I attended, was regarding the methodology. And the design methodology. It's so interesting. Nowadays, Anna, of course, had a variety of sources to gather information, but one of her sources, I don't know if she mentioned during the presentation, was Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was really interesting, because here we, have dedicated sort of, people think that, the methodologies are something that should be, that are bound by the book or something like that. And you need to always follow these, set rules and templates and sequences of action. But in the end, it's not like that. If you need some information, you need to use the right tool to get the information. And I think Anna was very, it was a very clever move in this case to get information, quality information fast. And I think that in a way is very reflective of, okay, not only the way, people are responding to or addressing challenges, but also a way in which, design is being informed by new technologies, new methodologies, pedagogies. So that's why that thing really stuck with me. I mean, it was very direct, and it sort of broke the mold, let's say, in terms of design methodology.
Yeah,
And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, for the methodology I used, I think the way that as it was mentioned, don't strict yourself of like what is normal and what is okay, what is considered okay. This is the way that I have to go, because this is it's a cycle. This is always the way that has been done. So using things, and we live in a digital world, so why not? And it's actual people, and you're able to collect meaningful data from that. And Instagram is just one platform. There's so many more. And yeah, please just innovate on the way that we use methodologies, because that's the way.
We have a question from Bryn Davis.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, it's not so much a question, it's more of a compliment, I guess. It's more about, I think one of the big takeaways for me of your presentation is that people who are involved in design or work with design a lot, we're familiar with a lot of process models. And you mentioned, for example, the double diamond. And the problem with maybe a problem, but limitation of a lot of these is they are often a static 2D graphic. And actually seeing the process model come to life is also it's informative for creative professionals, but maybe also for people who are not, don't consider themselves naturally creative as well. And I think seeing the puzzle untangling itself, the analogy you use about the ball of wool, that it evolves. If you think of other process models like fuzzy front end, it's distilled into a 2D graphic, but you don't see how that happens. It has to be visualized in one image. And I think seeing it in real time like that is very, very inspiring for me, but also I guess for people who are not naturally visual as well. So did you have any feedback from people who are not, say, professionally trained or academically trained, if they felt they understood it better from a user experience point of view?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, I shared with my team, I've shared with people that are within my team, but they're not creatives. They were very, they responded, first of all, thank you so much for your compliment. And they were very responsive in regards to the way the creative process should be led. And that most of them, people that are not in the creative field, or that are more like sales focused, which is, I mean, I'm within commercial. Besides my team, they are not familiar with the double diamond. But they easily understood what a creative process means and what it entails, and the idea of not restrict yourself to a linear form of doing things. So they do apply it in their own way of whenever they're creating their own stuff, because again, creativity is not solely based for artists. So they do apply it in a different sort of way, especially when they're coming up with solutions, because it's a commercial function, but it's solution focused on commercial. So whenever they're coming up with solutions and innovating the solutions for clients, that's when they put to practice something like this. So yeah, they were able to understand it at certain points, but I had to explain a little bit because they're not familiar with the kind of process that we are more familiar with, I guess.
Cool.
Great, thank you.
Any more questions or comments or compliments? We have a comment from Mariska to Ana. Ana, thank you for the amazing presentation and idea.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I don't know if anyone else wants to add some comment or question. Otherwise, because we are almost reaching 7 and we want to, yes, time flies. I would like just to thank everyone for the time. Thank you, Ana, once again, and thank you, Abhishek, for being here as well. And invite you also to join us next week for the next masterclass.
Well,
Bye.
thank you as well, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Good luck. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ana. Thanks for following.